Hey everybody, welcome to the September 15th Tinderbox Meetup. You've got me, Michael Becker, the host of our weekly Tinderbox Meetup calls. Mr. Mark Anderson and Mr. Bernstein are on the way back from Poland after having participated in the Hypertext conference. I've heard all has gone really well. Mark Anderson's paper was up for best paper again this year, but he slightly missed out. So at least he got recognized, but he didn't win it this year. But still all very, very good. And I guess they're going to have some great stories to tell us as the feedback. And it sounds like they had a ton of fun. And I guess Mark also went and toured the Enigma Machine Museum, which apparently is in Poland, and said it was absolutely cool and amazing. So that's fun. So typically the way we run these meetups is we go around the room and new people introduce themselves. We then talk about projects and programs that people are working on. And if we have a theme, we dig into that theme. We do not have a theme today, although there are several posts from this week that I posted in the meetup planning for today that could be suggestive tracks that we take, particularly a quick demo on emails, a quick demo on automatic linking. There was another one that talked about how do you do qualitative data analysis on images. So if you had several images, how would you go about setting up a QDA process in Tinderbox for doing that? That was another comment that came out. We could review that today. Mary Beth and I continue to work on our book, and the process of doing that is evolving rapidly and with great fluidity. So that's coming together really well. And we actually demonstrated the progress to our publisher yesterday, and they seemed to be very pleased. So that was also good. So that's another topic we can dig into as well. So let me pause there and hear from all of you. What would you all like to talk about today? Who's got a project? What are they working on? Don't all run to the table at once. Frederick, what do you got going on?
I'm still catching up. I managed to get Obsidian working, and I missed the last meetup, which looked totally interesting. So I need to watch the video. So I'm just catching up. But um, and I did start the last meeting looking at it, and it seems like using these stamps is a really great way of doing things. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that more effectively. And you've shown a lot of ways of doing interesting things. I'm trying to pull that into my workflow.
Yeah, and what was that again? It sounds like a lifetime ago. What was the last meeting? What was the focus of that one? Because I remember it being really cool.
The start of it was I forget the person's name.
Oh,
They
it
were
was Paul. It was Paul talking about
Oh
the
yeah.
shortcuts. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was good. And the whole use of on-visit stamps, I think, is a really cool. I just found that so much more nuanced in the ability to control what happens within my notes. We could revisit that topic today too if people are interested. Okay. Who else? Mr. Art, what do you got going on? And Dave Rogers has his hand up, so let's actually call to someone that actually wants to speak and not having me call them out.
Well, I don't have anything particularly important, but I noticed an issue last week. I was running blogging with the Marmot up in New York, and I'm on 15.1. I think is it macOS 15.1, the AI enabled Sequoia, and every time I tried to create a link in a post, um, the dialogue would not dismiss, and I'd click away from I'd click on the make link, and it wouldn't. Normally that disappears. I click away from it, and Tinderbox would crash, and that happened consistently 7 or 8 times. I sent crash reports each time. I couldn't get back to a stable version document. So I upgraded to 10.01, the latest version of Tinderbox. I had been reluctant to do that after some issues with 9 when date calculations changed or whatever. And 10 has not exhibited that issue. So I don't know if anybody's still running 9. if they're going to
Well,
be.
that does make a lot of sense, because if you remember, I think it was 9.5. Mark fundamentally rechanged the Tinderbox structure to address the new security issues that were coming up in Tinder, and so I suspect that the new OS is tightening down that even more.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully there will be some clues in the crash log, crash reports. I didn't do a console report or anything like that. I was just trying to get a blog post out. But just a heads up, anyways, I like to play with the beta releases and everything, and generally have never had a problem. But and Tinderbox have been working fine with Sequoia right up until then. So I don't know where the instability crept in, but just something to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, exactly. And definitely let them know before it publicly comes out. Okay. Anybody else? Topics? Bruce, what do you got going on?
Oh, sorry, I just cut in because I realized how to enable my to take my mute off on my iPhone. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Nothing going on. Okay.
nothing going on. All right.
I have something going on that surprised me. Of all people in the world, would you think that an ethics committee would want me to come and present on artificial intelligence? That just shows where things are. But anyway, so I took the bait. And I thought, as part of doing it, why not create, they wanted me to write a short bio so they could read it like they do. I thought, oh, why do we need to do that? Let artificial intelligence do it. So I gave a prompt on AI, and I animated the whole thing also. I took the person who invited me and I turned her into an animated superhero. So anyway, so fine, I give a prompt and I have 3 websites. I tell it I use chat 3.5 mini, I think. And I tell it to my name and that I'm a psychologist, and I tell it to consult these 3 websites and to give me a bio that's no more than 250 words. It gives an absolutely, and I use my name, Bruce M. Gale. It gives me an absolutely beautiful bio about Bruce M. Gale. But I know this Bruce M. Gale. He's a professor in bioengineering, either at Brigham or the University of Utah. And so I thought, well, that's a great example of some of the challenges with AI. So I put that into my little video presentation. And then, and then I shortened the prompt just a little bit, and it gave actually a 98% perfect bio of me. It did consult the websites, but I thought it was really kind of fascinating as an example that if you don't know what's right or wrong about the information, you're just going to accept it because it relabeled him. He's Bruce K. Gale. I'm Bruce M. Gale, but it ignored the K.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I just thought that was kind of a lesson of the moment. And if anyone should be interested, the American Psychological Association just published in August what they call their telepsychology guidelines. And they're actually very good. And it's got an excellent glossary. So people who don't fully understand things like HIPAA and high tech and some of the other elements, that's available online.
Can
But
you drop the link in the chat?
Yeah, I'll do that. So that's part of my week.
Yeah, and this AI stuff is really, I mean, I actually train my students on this when I teach. I'm like, you need to use AI in work, so I want you using AI in the classroom. Like I absolutely want you using it for your homework. But remember, the AI is like that really smart friend with great bravado, and it will give you complete bullshit or perfect answers with both levels of certainty. And it's upon you, the learner, to be able to discern that and to fact check and to trust, distrust but verify. Yeah, I think it's really important that kind of work in what we're doing. All right. So by the way, Bruce, does the dog still have the chew toy testing job?
The which?
The chew toy testing job. Is he still
no, but we've discovered we've discovered a purified wool leather toy that he both is in love with as he gently destroys it over the couple of weeks.
Got it.
He doesn't devour it, and he takes it with him everywhere. Best toy we've ever gotten for him. I went back to the store and bought 5 more.
Oh, drop that link in the chat
All right,
too.
I'll put the name in it. Something like Tough Toys, and they have peace signs and oh no, it's not a train. I thought it was a train. It's a tractor.
Got it.
So
All
he
right.
takes his tractor with him.
Nice.
Yeah, but he actually, apropos of nothing, I'll have to leave early. I'm doing an assessment today from a family that's driving about 3 hours away. And the student was terrified of being tested. It's a trauma abuse case, unfortunately. And I happened to mention that I have, this therapy dog. Well, they don't want to see me. They want to see him. And so now they can't wait to come. And so he'll be coming with me when we depart in about an hour.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll drop both those links in.
Cool. All right.
Anybody else? Camera and finish my oatmeal.
Anybody else? Anybody else have any other topics they want to discuss? Projects they're working on? No. So who wants me to kind of just make something up and drive some conversation? How about that? All right.
Yeah, go for it. I'll come up with something for you in another 10 minutes or so when my brain works better.
Okay.
So I'll come up with
I don't
something.
mind. I don't mind doing it, but as you all know, I have a tendency to easily monopolize the conversation. So I want to.
I'll come up with something here.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to be in New Mexico next week talking about mobile marketing and AI. So since Art and some of you were talking, Bruce, we're talking about AI and ethics, and that's a conversation. I'm wondering, how does Tinderbox intersect with AI? How does Tinderbox work with mobile? And will there ever be an app that you could use on your phone? Just kind of throwing that out there.
All right. Let me write these down. Okay, so let's go from the bottom up. Will there ever be an app? Probably not. Because there doesn't, and again, I'm not Mr. Bernstein, but if you remember, you've got one developer that's working on this app, and it's a Microsoft OS highly tailored app to the capabilities and processing of the Mac OS environment. In the current incarnation, until Microsoft once and for all, or excuse me, not Microsoft, until Apple once and for all gets the universal OS that's working, which I know they're working on, that works both on the laptop and the phones and the other related devices, I would suggest probably not. And then even then, it would be highly downgraded, and there would be a lot of evolution that would need to be evolved there. Part of the reason for that too is there's just so much processing, there's so much going on in the app that is Tinderbox, that optimizing that for a mobile device, for a single developer without other and additional resources would be a ton of work. And one would also, like we were talking about in last week and the previous week's discussions too, the question would be, why would you need it? So for instance, when you're on the larger screen and doing like the kind of work you and I are doing, the book writing and all of that, the larger screen, the computing, processing, everything that the laptop gives you is really what the tool Tinderbox is designed for. And the mobile screen is more for on-the-go, quick note collection, quick analysis, quick insight, which you can do with other apps like Obsidian. So there is no perfect app that serves everything at all the times in all use cases. So in my personal experience, and let's have other people respond there, I think what I've been learning is to find the right application for the right context, for the right experience, and then learn to string them together, like what we do with Obsidian and Tinderbox. And Obsidian is absolutely fantastic across all of the devices. And so for that early collection and curation elements, you can get a lot of that work done in Obsidian and bring that over to Tinderbox with little to no loss of fidelity. So the question would be, would it really be worth the engineering resources to do that? That would be my first question on the, and that kind of answers both your last two questions. Will there ever be a Tinderbox app, and would there, how does it work on mobile? And then the first question is, how does Tinderbox intersect with AI? Been a lot of work in the Tinderbox app for that. So Mark dives into the Mac OS's APIs for it's local AI services. And so I suspect with the up and coming new macOS release, there's going to be a lot, like Tinderbox 11 would be my guess. There would be a lot that Mark Bernstein's going to bring with the new personal intelligence that's rolling into the OSs. But for now, he delves into the sentiment analysis elements that come in, some of the spell checking, some of those other back-end systems are what is being leveraged within Tinderbox. And then there are people like Detlef, who we actually haven't seen in a long time, has built APIs between Tinderbox and ChatGPT, for example. So you can actually, add in the command line capabilities and have your Tinderbox file speaking with ChatGPT and submitting prompts from Tinderbox into ChatGPT and having the answers come back. So again, that's another great example of, use the tool that does what it does best, aka Tinderbox, and let the LLM models like ChatGPT do what they do. And then I remember about 6 to 8 weeks ago, we actually had another meetup where you can install local LLM models and have them running locally on your machine, and then you could use the local LLMs in partnership with, say, Obsidian or Tinderbox, and leverage them. So it's imminently doable. It's just, how do you want to cobble these different pieces together? So a lot of really interesting stuff happening there. Mr. Rogers, you had your hand up.
Thank
and then
you.
Art, you turned yourself off mute. So I'm assuming you have a comment.
Yeah, AI and Tinderbox, two opportunities I think Mark might explore at some point. One maybe more valuable than the other is action code. I don't know where you would provide perhaps ATB ref as the corpus that the model would use. So you'd have an AI assistant in helping you debug or create action code for a particular use within your Tinderbox document. I think that's value added if that's achievable, and it seems to me that that's the kind of small scale type of LLM, large language, small scale model that could run on, within the computer, doesn't necessarily need to go to a cloud. The other thing would be for people who have large documents, large number of notes, to have that AI facilitate that. Mark already has the suggested links, but have the model learn from all of your notes within your document. I have like 10 years or 20 years of blog posts to suggest related posts, or you could task it with writing a summary of how my opinion has changed, or all of my opinions on these particular issues, or something like that, that facilitates reviewing that long body of work and giving you a concise summary of whatever it is, the topic that you're interested in, and write it in your own voice. So
my response on that would be thinking along the lines of the spirit of Tinderbox and how I've seen the app develop is spot on, perfectly great, awesome use cases, and yet so much of that is not the responsibility of Tinderbox as much as it's the responsibility of Tinderbox effectively integrating with the local language model that will be on the new machine. So let's say in the next OS version of Mac OS, which Apple is releasing, is especially on the phones, is this let us help you write. So the way I could see that being brought into Tinderbox is Mark could open up through new operators that says pass these blocks of notes to the Mac OS large small language model that's sitting on the machine, do the process and spit back the response. So it wouldn't be as much as Tinderbox doing the work, but it would be Mark opening up the operator, much like a great example would be the speak operator. So if you want your Tinderbox file to speak on your behalf, all you need to do is pass it the name of a voice and pass it a string of text, and the computer will speak for you. That same thing, take that string of text, pass it to a language model, and have it spit back that summary.
Well, that's probably an early low-hanging fruit type of thing. What I think is a tailored model that knows Tinderbox and attributes and knows what role attributes play within a Tinderbox document, and then is able to intelligently examine those attributes and find connections between notes that, you know, suggested links does that to some extent now. I think it relies on text. It may rely on attributes. I don't know. Text is an attribute, but something more sophisticated along those lines that can look for those links.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that the other one too, and as we're just thinking about that, ATB ref is great, but what ATB ref lacks is examples. So ATB ref is not a tool to teach somebody necessarily how to do it. What ATB ref does is it shows what it is and a little bit of the why and some very rudimentary hows. But in order to really properly train the large language model, I think it wouldn't just be use ATB ref. It's like, here's the entire discourse of the forum, you know, and pull all of the examples that we've been doing in the forum, and then from that maybe start doing it. But
well, except action code has changed over time, and the forum
true.
goes back years and years and years. So
true, and with typos and with mistakes and different people's local context and the different naming stuff, it could be really. I mean, think about how hard it is for us to figure this out with our human brains, let alone a machine trying to tease this apart. It's getting kind of edge casey. But it would be cool to try. Mr. Bruce.
I just had a question going back to Dave, something that you said about putting documents in. I'm wondering, does it matter to the engine whether you are feeding in a web page, which is going to have its HTML formatting, versus an actual document, versus, for example, a document with Markdown that might also be a web page? Does that make a difference in terms of it figuring out what the main points are?
I don't know. I guess it would depend on the model and how much emphasis it placed on the document object model, you know, the semantic meaning of the formatting. If it's just looking at the human readable text, then I don't think it matters whether it's HTML or RTF or, you know, a Word document or something like that.
I'm just curious because I know from my use with Otter, which I'm not feeding documents into it, it's audio recording and transcription. It really does a very impressive job. I mean, it's not that it gets it right, it rarely gets it wrong.
Dave Weiner has talked about, and you know, I don't know if you're familiar with him, scripting.com. He's been a web developer, Apple developer for decades, and a web developer for a long time. He's a big proponent of OpenAI and ChatGPT, and he has somehow fed he's got a blog going back to 1994 or 5 or something like that. He has fed all of that into a model of some kind, and he's trained it to basically write things in his voice, using his, you know, phraseology. And so at least that's the impression I got from reading his blog. I have not seen those posts. Right now, he's fascinated with creating little kitty illustrations for current events. But it seems to me that if any writer who has a large body of notes that wants to condense them, you know, consolidate them into a concise sort of statement on whatever their particular view is on a certain subject. You know, blogs range all over some are specialized, but I range all over the area. But in 10 or 15 years worth of posts, there's got to be some consistent themes. You know, I could sit down and go through and look at it and try and do that. But man, it'd be great if a machine would do it. And the machine might notice that when you blog at 5 in the morning, your sentiment analysis is much lower than when you blog at 10 o'clock at night, or, you know, those other interesting type things. Or when the weather is hot, I'd be interested to see what information could be teased out of this large quantity of text, which it may all be garbage in, garbage out. I don't know.
So I have 2 responses to that. One, I think you're absolutely right. We're most certainly going to be seeing that. And we talked about this before. There's an emerging concept called the digital twin. Let me drop it in the chat. There's 2 there's two big players that I've been following right now in this kind of personal AI space. The first being Profina and the second being Custom GPT. And like with each, what you can do is upload your material to the local AI. It's a server-based AI, but it's isolated in a private virtual server, so it's not actually being shared publicly. And all of that material becomes your digital twin. And in the case of like Profina and Custom GPT, you can throw up a QR code and allow people to have conversations with your digital twin. What were the themes that Dave's been talking about for the last 3 years? What was his comments in the morning? And it will analyze all of the material you share with it. And then Profina has really zeroed in on professional coaches, public speakers, who actually want to put some of their material behind a paywall. So, here's the free conversation you can have with my digital twin. And here, if you want to really have a conversation with me, pay me 10, 20, 30 bucks and you can access into that material. So that's what I've been studying this summer, is how to put paywalls around my digital twin. So hopefully by Christmas, I'll be coming out with something like that.
My only caution to you is that have a good lawyer on hand, because if somebody decides to sue your digital twin for some wrong advice that they received from it, you
Yeah.
may have a problem on your hands.
No, seriously, that's a good comment.
The digital lawyer suing the digital twin, and the case will be heard by a digital judge and jury?
In a limited LLM, yes, probably.
By the way, here's the dog toy. This is what's left of the tractor. It's just the wheel. So he's artful in how he goes for it. But the whole thing is about this big, and he's had this one for I think 2 weeks. And you can see the wool. It's all hand stitched, by the way, so there's no glue or anything to get in his digestive system. And he has mercifully left the rope alone. He just drags it around and carries it by that.
That's so cute. All right, I'm gonna have to look
It's
at that.
best dog toy we've come across, because he is what do they call him? Yes, a determined chewer.
Nice.
So I put it in chat.
Okay. Any other topic? Do we want to keep discussing the AI thing a little bit? Do we want to pop in and look at some Tinderboxy stuff? What do people want to do for the call this morning? All right, let me do this. I'm going to show some Tinderboxy stuff, and if somebody else has something else that pops up in their head, please show up. So in one of our threads, let me find it. So I was monitoring the community this week, and in one of the threads, there was a session we had a while back, May 13th, 2023. We had talked about using emailing from Tinderbox, and at that point, we were doing emailing with an Apple script. And so, who was it? Jacob, a year later, pops in and says, can you share me with the Apple script? And that has since thankfully moved on from there. So in Tinderbox, Mark has introduced 2 new attributes. Let me go ahead and where's my here? Inspector. And those 2 new attributes are, or I can just show you this way. If you just type email, I can show you. So the attributes are email subject and email template. And what that means then is if you have, and if we open up a new file, it might be the easiest way to see it. So if you start a new file like this, and we say, test note, test note, okay, and you're starting from a blank file and you're wanting to be emailing from Tinderbox. What you can do is you could simply say email, and let me go ahead and grab this email from my test file here and paste that email into your Tinderbox file. And if all you need to do is click that email, and that will open up MacMail and start an email. So kind of iterating against that process, if I don't save that file and I add some text and say, this is a copy of my email, and I hit Lorem, some text in there, and I go ahead and do that again, it will take that, it will then pop and create an email with the body of the text. So since 2023, since 9.5 or so, Mark, after my desperate pleadings, had triggered this ability to not for us not to have to use AppleScript to be able to email from Tinderbox. Now, to facilitate that even further, he has added a email subject attribute. So we can say this is the subject. Now, if we hit email again, move that over from the other screen, and you'll see it populates the subject line as well. So then if you want to take it even further, you can go up to Tinderbox, templates. So we're going to add a template file into Tinderbox. And we will hit, let's go ahead and create a new template. We'll call it T-email. And for expediency's sake, we'll grab that from this one, drop it into here. And now what, let's say, and again, if for those that don't know email, all that we really care about right now at this point is this section in here. This is the body copy of our particular email. And what we want to do is we want to change this a little bit, and we'll say P, hi, comma, and I'm going to change something really quick. So I'm going to say hi, value, first name, comma, close P. So that's how we get a paragraph mark. Then we'll have the text be in there. We're not going to have children to our email. And we'll say, and just leave it at that. Okay. So the way we want our email to say is, hey, first name, here's the text. And then we don't need to put a signature in it because MacMail will handle that for us. So if we copy this, go to our test email, and now we say email template. And add that in, and let's not get to that one. Now, if you remember, I created a attribute called first name when I was doing that, and Tinderbox doesn't have a first name attribute out of the gate. So we'll go ahead and create that as a string. So we'll go up here, and let's say it's Art. Okay, so it's Art's the first name, email, the subject line, and the email template. So now when we hit email, it pops up, and the email says, this is the subject line from Michael Becker. Hi, Art. Here's the body copy, blah, blah, blah. Here's the signature. So you can start crafting emails. Now, if you notice, the font's a little wonky here. And so let's play with, let me go pull over one of my other files. Just give me a second. I'll bring this over. It's not in that one. Which one's going to have it? It's not in that one. I got to open a different file here. Pull in this one. So yeah, because this is all HTML, you are able to use CSS to format that. So let me pull it from a different file so we're not creating it in real time. So I've got my, and I'll share this when we're done. Where's my CSS directory? There it is. Email 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to create a new directory called CSS folder. And I'm going to, whoops. And I'm going to paste this in. So this is the CSS that I have. It's an HTML file. I want the height to be 100% of the page. This is the body text I want. Here's the way I want the headings and the colors. So that's how we want to have the CSS. And if I go to my email, I'm going to copy it from a different folder here. Where is it? T email. Emails. Yeah. So now what we'll do is we'll go to our email template. And in the header, we'll go ahead and we'll say this. And we'll say, there's two ways to do this. If you want to have mix and matching different styles, we'll get to that in a minute. But for now, let's do an include, and we say include the CSS3 email. So we're saying we want to include this. So a big part of Tinderboxing and what we do when we're using a tool like this is the concept is called transclusion. It's what Ted Nelson came up with back in the late 60s, early 70s when he conceived of the idea of hypertexting. And transclusion essentially says, take some information from one place and stick it into another in real-time context. So when you're using the transclude export code in Tinderbox, there's typo, what we're essentially telling Tinderbox is, hey, Tinderbox, in the head of your HTML file, go out and grab the file CSS email 3 and include its body text into this section. And now, and if you wanted to, you could also the include has another operation. Let me look at my T-plane template real quick just to show it. Make sure I get it right. Okay, yeah, that's it. So I could also create another, and I'll demonstrate transclusion a bit while we're at it. So the transclusion template also says, how do you want to include it? So you could also put a secondary argument that says, I want you to transclude it using the, the T-plane template. And so what that's saying is, I want you to include the file CSS email 3 using the template T-plane. And my T-plane template is saying, just grab the text of that note without any transformation, without processing any values or processing it through any of the export codes of Tinderbox. And if you guys are interested, I'll demonstrate that in just a second. So by doing that, essentially what we're saying is, hey, Tinderbox, when you render the email, what I want you to do is use this HTML, grab the styling from this note and do it. So if we do that and we go back to our test note here, let's say in the email, we say heading 1 and we say this is a heading. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of interesting training here if we want to dig into this further and tease this apart for template management. So if we do that here, and we'll say this is a heading 2, and we'll go ahead and drop some text there. Right, so let's say you craft the email in that way. So now what we're doing is we're going to be passing the HTML over to MacMail, but with the styling sheets we've given. And now our emails picked up the styling sheets, the style sheet. And so now we've got a heading 1 and a heading 2 in our email, and you'll notice that it's also processed the font that we want. So this is a really, really effective and great way for for managing it. Now, I personally, as you know, I call it the CSA separation method. I cannot stand, if at all possible, putting structure into my content. It drives me bananas. And I prefer to have my content all Zettelkasten-ish, independent of any structure, because that allows for maximum reusability and maximum reuse. So if I were to be in one of my files, if I were to be writing this email, I would say email, and we'll call it note to art, for lack of a better term. And what I would do is I would say introduction, and then I would call this one, this is a heading, and then I would call this one, this is a heading. Oops. Okay, now watch this. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm doing my structure on the fly. We'll add some Lorem Ipsum text in there. So we've got all our body here, so we'll get rid of all of that. And so now what we're going to be asking Tinderbox is to cascade this note. And so what we now need is the children in this note. And note this is a email, so we'll say T email item. And I will explain this once I've got it properly set up. T email and T email. Okay, so what have I done now in our template structure? What I've done here is I've said, hey, Tinderbox, process, this is the top level parent template. And that's saying process this note. And then I'm saying, once you've done processing me, the parent note, what do you want me to do with the children? Well, what I want you to do with the children is I want you to process the children, templates, email item. And then
Michael, sorry, shouldn't you have the T before email and email item, because that?
Yeah, it shouldn't be E. You're right. It should be T.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect. And then we need to have our appropriate text in here. So what we want to have here is we want to have, and again, this is not going to work exactly the way I want, because let me show you. We'll have to tweak it a little bit. What I want is I want you to process. Let's see if this is going to work. What I want you to do is I want you to process, and the children. Okay, this will work. And then I want you to, this is the way I wouldn't do it this way, but this will work. I want you to process the first note, the note that you have selected with this template. Then when you start interrogating the children of this template, I want you to process the children with email template item. That will be this template. And so let's say its headings are going to be heading 1s. And then the children of that template, I want you to process using this template. 2, right? And then an email heading 2, the heading number is going to be 2, and we're not going to have any children there. So essentially, now what we're doing is we're essentially saying, hey, Tinderbox, when you process this note, process the top level note with this template, process its children with this one, and then process its children's children with this one. So if we now go ahead and preview that, show the preview pane selector, and we'll hit 1, and we'll say use email. Oops, no, I don't want to change the folder. I want to change the template. Okay, so everyone with me so far? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, why did I let me ask this? Why did I change this template to email template for the preview? Let me stop there and show you this. Without doing that, let's say it was none. What do I expect to have happen? So remember when I clicked on this, I'm not going to do it now because I want to screw up the demo. When I click on this, what did it do? It opened up an email with the process templates. Well, remember, what did I do? I told Tinderbox the template is T email. So when it went to go do the email, it was using the template that I told it to use. But if I go use preview here, notice the template is none. So when I preview, nothing's going to show up because it's using the preview template. So the email template, this is the kind of the beautiful thing. The email template and the previewing template, aka the exporting template, are different. That's one of the really cool things that Mark did with this this release. So for example, now I'll show you, let's say I'm saying, no, I want you to, no, wrong, I'm on the wrong note. Now I want to say Tinderbox, hey, instead of using the preview, use the HTML template when you review it. Let's draw some notes in here. Some Lorem Ipsum just real quick. Okay, so now when you preview this note using the HTML template, I get this, because that's what the HTML template does. Process the first children and then process all its subsequent children using heading 2s. Okay, so if we actually look at the export code, what is Tinderbox outputting it for me? It's giving the first note as a heading 1, and then it's giving all subsequent children as heading 2s. So that's the way the HTML template's set up. And now if we then want to be previewing our email template before we attempt to send it, what we're going to do is we're going to set our template export to email. And so now when we do that, we get this. So we actually have this really cool structured email. Now, let me pause there. Does all of that, and so what we expect then is the preview will now equate to what we export in our email, because we're using the same template for for preview and email. So when we do that, here is now what our email looks like. And we've now been able to get the structure of the email without having to put the heading 1, heading 2 HTML in the body of my email. I use Tinderbox outlining structure to give me that heading structure. Because since Tinderbox is outlining like an email, Tinderbox naturally says top level note is a heading 1, or excuse me, that we've told Tinderbox based on the templates. The first note, the first children of a note are heading 1s. Any subsequent children of a note is heading 2s. So that's how we've structured that in Tinderbox. And if you wanted to do this, I could come in here and say the next one are heading 3s. Now, I personally don't do this because I like a lot more dynamic structures in my emails, or in the way I template. I find this a little too hard coded. But now if we did this and called this heading 3, right? So now what we're doing is we're cascading down our emailing template. So now when we go preview that note, we now have a heading 3. So let me pause there. Does all that make sense? All right. And again, now that we've done that, if I go in here and I click here, I've now got my email, including the heading 3s. Okay. Now, since we're on, I'm a bit on a roll with the, this was an unplanned Tinderbox templating training. But since Art.
Yeah, so I just to come back to what you were saying now, that Mark did something by separating the preview template from the export template. I'm not
preview
really
template
clear.
from email template. Remember, preview and export are the same.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. Then ignore that question.
Preview and email template are different.
Okay, so only the email template is now something different, and
Correct.
because it contains these
Right.
other affordances like going to Apple Mail, etc.
Well, no, just because it is just going to Apple Mail. That's the affordance. Because what that allows me to do is I can have a different template for writing my reports and doing all this stuff. But now I want to email that stuff out, and so I can have 2 different templates. It just makes a lot more sense.
Okay, just an addendum question. Is the only app you can export this to mail.app, or can you use another
today,
client?
right now, it's only mail. Yeah, and
okay, fine. No, it's fine.
That's a security issue, and remember though, actually, let me pause there. Actually, that's an incorrect statement. Let me go to my mail. It's the only app you can export to is the default app.
In Outlook.
So if I select a different email client, it will export to what it will export. Or let me pause here. It will attempt to export to whatever is you set up on your Mac as your default email client. Right? Here's the issue though. Not every default email client is open to the Mac OS openness. So like, for example,
that makes sense.
I use SparkMail. SparkMail, this will not work for SparkMail because SparkMail does not allow third-party apps to do this. Whereas Thunderbird would. I don't know if Outlook does. Mailmate does. So I have like a Mailmate is an app for writing emails in Markdown. So if I ever write any of my emails in Markdown, which I actually do all the time, I actually switch my default email client to Mailmate, and now all of my emails go straight from Markdown into Mailmate as Markdown, and then I can email them out of Mailmate. So half that, it's whatever you choose, but that's how you do that. So the answer is it's whatever default mail client you've set up it will use if the mail client supports this exchange.
Subject to it supporting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let me show you something else though. For me, when I write my content, and I can show you in our book, I've learned over time that there's a lot of times that I'll want to put in the context like a structure like this, introduction, right? So I want to open up a conversation with, just for my own rhetorical logic. Hey, Art, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then I get into the meat. Here's heading 1, here's heading 2, here's heading 3. So this is really what I want to say. And I try not to put stuff at the top level, because this becomes like, this is the container for all of the body information I'm trying to say. So what I want is, hi, Art, some text. Here's the meat of our copy. Take care. Now, and let's and let me show you one other thing. So let's go ahead here. Let's do I have another folder. We'll call this one signatures. And let's go in here and we'll say MB sig 1, MB MB sig 2, and I will copy from here. So this is maybe let's say this is my MB sig 1, and this will be my MB sig 2. Copy it without formatting. Come on. All right. I accidentally opened mail right there. Okay. And so that's my MB sig 1. This is MB sig 2. And let's say this one is Tinderbox host. Okay. Where'd you guys go? Okay, you're with me. So I've got 2 different signatures. So just like we did with the include before, if I go to my email template here, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put this at the, so look at the structure of the email, right? So what we're doing is we're saying process the introduction, process the text of the body of the parent note, which we have nothing. So we could actually remove that because I never put text in the body note. Then cascade through the cascading of processing the children notes. And then once all of that's done, stick the signature in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new value here, and we'll say value. Yeah. Value, we'll call it sig. I'm kind of making stuff up on the fly. I don't actually do this myself, but it's a good idea. So I might stick that in. Okay, so now we're going to go back up to our template up here, and we'll say email sig. So we're going to create a new template called email sig, and we'll make it a set, and I'll tell you why. Because up here, we're going to add email sig, and we're going to add some action code to email sig edict that says email sig equals collect children name. Okay, so we'll run it. So you'll see this set email sig has now been populated with its children. So if I go in and add a new one, MB sig 3, and how about do okay, so let's say that's my 3rd signature. By doing that collection, you'll see that that collection's automatically populating for me. And so this is a strategy for creating automatic dropdowns. So if I go back up to this email here, I can now select from here, and that it will have pre-populated the signatures for me. So if I want to collect MB sig 1, and because in the template I said, add my signature to the end, I could have, did I not do that right? Include value MB email sig. That should have worked. Maybe you can't include a value like that and include, oh, maybe I need to put the template in T-plane. Let's see. That could be what I need to do. Okay, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. Something's wrong with that. But the other thing I wanted to show you was this. What we might want to do too is this first before we go any farther. Go, I don't know, person. Get the prototypes folder in there. Say T email. Give it a little email icon. Grab these attributes. Come down here, add them there. Go, let's create a new folder. We'll call it email folder. Pull up there. We'll create another folder called P folder. Give it there here. On add. Equals P email. All right, so anytime we add something to this folder, it will become an email. We call it P email? No. P email. So going back out here. All right. Oh, and then I gotta assign this folder here. So now that we've done this, any new emails we add to this folder will automatically get, whoops. Damn it. P folder, there we go. So any new items we add to this folder will now automatically get the email template or prototype that we've associated with. Now, the other thing, though, that I wanted to show earlier before I got distracted by the signature thing that wasn't working is what I want to do is I want to get rid of that introduction there. I want to have some flexibility that allows me to control whether or not that shows up or not. So here is something methodology I've developed that I find really useful. I say is include title. And we'll make this a Boolean. All right, we'll stick that right at the top of the template. So now if we go into the template and here, we've got this title here. So you can use what's called export code conditionals. So we say if is include title equals true. Actually, let's say, yeah, equals false. Then do this. Okay, so, and then we can take that and propagate it across the other templates. Oh, that was a 3, wasn't it? Okay, and then if we create another prototype while we're at it, we'll call it P page. And P page will have the is include on it because we want that for everybody. And then we can come up here and just apply that to these. P page, and if we go back down to our email, and we say on add, prototype equals P page. So that way, if we're creating a new email, by doing that, I can add new email. And then when we add it, that will automatically get the P page prototype. And to help us visually distinguish that, let's go ahead and add a That's a cute icon, so we'll use that. So now we have all the different pages for our email. So if I add a new page to that email, you'll see that happening. But yeah, Mr. Art.
Oh, no, sorry. It was a sideways question because in terms of when you're doing your the export template, you don't have the use of the brackets, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
Well, no, you mean for action code.
yeah, when you are in the export page right now, yeah, within there, you don't have the use of brackets. So basically, the caret apparently is doing the function of quite a
Yeah,
few things.
yeah.
It's
So yeah.
multifunctional.
So in Tinderbox, there's two approaches to action code.
Uh-huh.
There's export code, and there's export code and actions. Export code was the original. Export code was the original way of triggering action code. Okay, and then once like Tinderbox 7 and 8 started coming up, Mark created this concept called the functions and all of that, and that's when he started creating this other way of writing your action code. So this is essentially a way of writing action code. Now let me demonstrate this to you real quick. This is using action code. I could have done this in a slightly different way, and I'll do it in this one just for explanatory sake. So right here, I'm using what's called export code conditionals. So I'm saying start the condition if, put action code in between that, close that condition, stick whatever you're doing in the middle from an export perspective, and then close the condition if. All right. So what I'm also, and just to be explanatory, I'll do it on the second one. So this first one, what I'm saying is if is include title equals false, then show me this. What I could also do, just to show you, there is a else. No title. I'll leave that in there just for explanatory sake, but I'll show you how I personally handle that differently. Okay. So what I'm saying here for a heading 1, if there is if the is include title is false, then show this. Otherwise, if it's true, because it's Boolean, true or false, then show no title. But obviously, I don't want that in real life, but I'm demonstrating it for the purposes of this. In this example, we're just saying if it's false, then show title, but we have no else. So in other words, do nothing. Right. So that
Sure,
would.
no, I'm sorry. I'm just confused by the syntactical use of
Yeah,
the
no, I know,
caret
but I'm going
because
to
it seems
demonstrate.
to
I'm going to
be.
demonstrate that. I'm going to
Oh,
demonstrate.
sorry.
Right.
Sure.
And
Okay.
then in this third example, let me show you this. If you wanted to do action code in a template, you could do export code that says action. Right. So this is the way to kind of mix the worlds of export code and action code. So here, if I did this, right, here is what I would do in this template. I would say, now I'm writing normal action code. If is include title equals true, then what do I want you to do? What I want you to do, and let's create a variable. I'd say variable string equals v title. Then v title equals plus h3 plus title plus name plus. Now what you'll find is when you start mixing these up, sometimes you'll get kind of confused because sometimes you're thinking you're writing action code when you're writing export code, which is normal. So now what I'm saying is in this use of the process, I'm saying if when the template triggers, it will say action process this action code. And so essentially what I've done here is I've set the title to this this HTML syntax plus the name. So down here, instead of doing that in the HTML, I'm going to do value v title. Right. So in other words, stick the value of v title what I've defined as v title in the export template. Does that make sense? So this demonstrates kind of the three different ways that you can implement the exact thing I'm talking about. So let's go now and see what happens when we do that. So let's say, as I was saying before, I don't want the word introduction in the title of the note. So now if I do that and I preview, the word introduction is now gone. Now if I go back and I say, but I want the introduction is now back. So I start now having some nuance on how to control how my information is being cascaded into my template. So as an author, I find this incredibly valuable because I want a holder, I want a note to hold the stuff I want to say, but I also want to have nuanced control of what the output's going to be, and I don't necessarily want that title to be outputted.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Okay.
I love it. Yep.
Now,
and I mean, obviously, I'm just thinking in terms because I don't send a whole lot of excuse me, templated emails, but this entire operation is so applicable also to multi-level essays or chunks of
better
text.
yet, let me show you this. It's applicable to a book, right? Here's Mary Beth and Mai's book, right? And you'll see all of these different controls I put into the book, right? Is no show title, is no show text, is no show children. Yes, bullet the list of children. So in this context, using this analogy, here's that section of the book. But now I want to tell Tinderbox, you know what? Don't show the title. So the title goes away. Now what I want to do is, well, I want you to show the title, but now what I want you to do is actually bullet the children. So here's a bulleted list of the children. Now what I want you to do is bullet the list of children, but don't actually display the children. Children go away. Now what I want you to do is bullet the list of the children, but actually include their text. There's the text. So, to that point of as I said, for me, it's the content, I call it the CSA separation model. You want to separate your content from its structure and appearance. And so using this methodology, I'm not sticking myself into linear thinking, tabulator thinking, or bulleted thinking. I can output whatever thinking I want by
Yeah, I think this is most excellent.
By using the templates.
Yeah, it's excellent. I know obviously you can also use action code in here to programmatically sort of enable and disable a whole range of your Booleans.
I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, what I'm saying is like, okay, like now print a copy, so you don't actually have to go into each chapter or each section. You go, boom, it will.
Correct.
It'll change the entire appearance. Excellent.
Correct. And so like down here, this list children, just to show you how this works in the book. I've got a whole series, and I'll give you a great example of that in the book, and then I'll go back to what we're doing here. So this is the chapter I was just finishing up yesterday in mobile analytics. Was you have all of these different types of key performance indicators or analytics you can do in mobile marketing. And here you've got, so there's delivery metrics, there's engagement metrics, there's channel specific metrics, and then under channel specific metrics, there's text messaging, RCS messaging, OTT messaging, etc. And if you notice the cascading list, first list, second list, third list. So if you go look at my template here, right? So essentially this says when the function list children advanced. So if you go look at my template here, it says if yes list children is true, then include this note by applying the list children template. And if you go look at the list children template, the list children template says the variable complete list of children is call this function and pass this function the ID of this note. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm saying take this note that's currently selected, pass this ID to the function that says list children, and then spit back out to this variable that complete list of children, and then stick that complete list of children right here. Or if there's any images too, right there. You see that? Okay, so what is that function that is complete list of children? That function that is complete list of children is this. Come in and pass me this note. So what this function is doing is saying, go grab all your children and start wrapping the UL tags around that note. And then when you get down here, if the children, and here's where it got really interesting. If the children also has yes, list the notes, then what I want you to do is pass the child's child to another function, which is the second tier, and process that. And if the child's child is checked to list its children, then pass that note. And so you'll see here where I'm returning, I'm cascading the 3 different functions. So this note here gives me 3 levels of passing children notes who I want to have bulleted back and forth. So when I do that, it took me a while to figure this out, honestly.
No, sure.
But if I do that, this and here, and I'll show you, I'll demonstrate it here. Let's say for this note, I uncheck the children notes. So now if I go up here and look at key performance indicators, all of these children get bulleted, but the text messaging doesn't have the children note hit, so its children aren't being displayed. But if I go back, because it's a 3rd level note, and I say, okay, now I want you to display those children, you'll now see the text messaging that has its children now displayed. So you have just have incredible fidelity. Now, again, let's say, no, hey, Tinderbox, actually, I want you to just show these as a linear document. And there they are. Right?
Yeah,
so,
outstanding.
Yeah, so I can completely control how I want this to be cascaded and delivered. Now, the last thing I'll show you here too is what happens if I actually, in my template, I say, also show me it as a numbered list. And so Tinderbox is going to come back and actually now number the list instead of it actually having it be bullets. And then I don't think I have citations in here, so I can't really do in this particular one. But if I can go down here and show you this, I have actually developed in some nuance in here and what as well. That again, think about what you want to do is structure everything by variables. So when I'm telling Tinderbox here saying, grab me the children, get it short titles, and here, if it says include the hidden citation keys, then actually give me my citations on the bullets. So I can actually optionally, if I'm writing an academic piece where I actually want my academic citations listed, I can be including that as an option. And then here where I'm saying open up the URLs, if VURL open is if there's a URL on the note, actually make that note highlighted. If it's highlighted, then make it bold. And then here I'm saying, create a Lee list. But down here I'm saying, if it's yes number list, change the opening to a number list versus an unordered list. And so again, you have incredible fidelity when you're doing that. But let's go back to here and talk about one more affordance that I've done in my note taking. So I've told Tinderbox not to uncheck this, not to include this this note introduction, right? Okay, but as an author and as I'm looking at the outline, I can't see that I've done that. And when you've got thousands of notes, that gets really challenging. So what I've done is I've created another method. And let me show you here. We're going to do it on T page. And I'm going to create a new attribute. Actually, I'm going to do it in 2 ways. I'm going to go to display expression cache or display expression. And I'm going to say if is include title If is include title equals true false, then else. All right. So if is include title equals false, then what? Well, if it's false, I want you to have I want you to display the name. Okay. And if it's true, if is include title equals true, excuse me, other way around. If is include title equals false, you know what? This is where logic escapes me. Go back to my page. Okay, is include title. That was the wrong name because again, the operation is not is include title. This is where I got my language wrong. What I really want in this context is no. Because really, if you think about the logic, if don't include the title, when I'm saying when this is true, I don't want the title included.
I think you got 0. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when this is true, I don't want the title included. So what I need to do is I need to go back and now fix this. Is no. Is no. Is no. So in other words, what I'm saying now here is if is no include title. If no is include title is false, then show the name. Otherwise, show the name plus a space plus no show title. Okay, so essentially on this note, I have a display expression that says if no include title is false, then just show me the name. But if it's true, else, aka if it's true, then show no show title. So if we go up here, you'll now say it's introduction no show title. Now we want to go back and change it again. What I really want is parentheses. Okay. And what we might want to do, just to have some fun, we'll say color equals normal. Okay, so now what we're saying, if no show title equals false, then show me the name and make the color normal default. If no show color title equals true, put no code title in the display expression and color the note red. And so that should have been. Oh, you know what? I don't think. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. It doesn't look like we can do note coloring in the display expression.
Oh,
Which I didn't know, which is interesting.
Is it just a text coloring, or
yeah,
can you change the text color?
It could be note coloring. So this is where how I definitely do it differently. So I don't like putting a lot of code in display expression.
I agree. It tends to bog things down when you have
It
hundreds
tends to
of
bog
notes.
things down. So what I've done
Yeah.
is I've created a methodology where I go, I call it display expression cache. So I've got an attribute I call display expression cache, and I tell in my prototypes display, I say, display, use the value of display expression cache for the display expression. So then that allows me to really make a lot more fidelity in my management. So I could say if is no include title equals false, then else. And so we say 1, 2, 3, we say name, we say display expression cache equals name and color equals normal. And then we say down here, display expression equals name plus no show title, color equals red. Right. So now I'm not just changing the display expression. I'm saying if this is the case, then perform these multiple actions.
Oh,
So now-
essentially, just sorry, just so I understand. First of all, there's a typo on title, but just so I understand this, essentially what you've done is converted the continuous instruction for display expression to an edict,
Correct.
effectively. Okay,
Correct.
cool. So that you're just sending less signals constantly.
I'm sending
within
less signals
Tinderbox.
constantly, and it's
Okay.
and if you wanted to, you could even put a Boolean in here so all that other code doesn't work. So we could say you could say like this: if yeah, let's just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, this is fine. This is good enough. Yeah.
There's a little other affordances that you can put in here that says you put in a Boolean there that says if this is true, then run that code. Otherwise, don't worry about it.
I
Right?
understand.
And actually, that's where you would do it. You would do it in this edict. Yeah. So here's the Boolean. If this is true, then run that code. Otherwise, don't run the code.
Don't run the code. Yeah,
Right.
that's
So
excellent.
now what you've done is you've established a Boolean. Booleans are quick. Running through a lot of code is not. So that's, and when you get 10,000 notes, that actually does bog down your system.
No, it's a great solution. I will definitely deploy
So now
it.
if you go back up here, you'll see now my node is red. And if I uncheck
this is also particularly useful, especially for someone like in your usage scenario, because you're essentially using name modifications as indicating flags to let you know what the
what's going
status
on.
of yeah, absolutely. It's which I do too, and this has been bogging me down. So I will definitely deploy this great
Right.
tip. Thank you.
So when in the case of like Mary Beth in my book, I've got in this one chapter alone, I've got about 900 notes. Some of them are this, some of them are that, some of them are shown as lists, some of them are not. So this visual affordance in the outline lets me know what's going to happen on the output. Okay, so now what we've done with all of this, we can then say is no show title. I can now preview it. This email is going to get sent out without the title. And if I hit that, I've now got my email. And now remember, we said no title, right? So if we go back here, and I did that just for demonstration purposes. So if I go back here and undo that else, we don't actually want that else. We just want the end if.
Do you have to put endif
Yeah,
on
you do.
export?
You
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Okay. Because think about the syntax. If I go back here, start an if, and when that if's done, then end that if, end the conditional. So you've got to pair off, just like you do in action code. You got to pair off the or in HTML opening tag, closing tag.
Yeah. With action code, you have the benefit of the bracketing, so you know.
Correct. So it's the same thing.
The statement knows it's ended.
It's
Okay, thank you.
Right. So now, if we go ahead and shoot the email, that no title statement's gone. So now you're seeing through this exercise, we're getting the fidelity of how to manage your input. And it's not just about people saying, well, I don't do export code. Well, you do if you want to preview your notes. You do if you want to interrogate and view your notes. So even if you're not exporting stuff out, or even if you're not doing email, having some fidelity on the way you manage your exports actually helps you think. It's the other way to think about what we've been talking about here is this allows you to create your own Tinderbox views. Right? I'm creating my own views and not having to wait for Mark Bernstein to create them for me. using HTML,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's true.
right? I could effectively create any view I want with my notes. So let me give you another example of that real quick in the last 4 minutes that we have. I'll go here, table. And this will just show you how quickly you can get this done once you know what's going on. So we'll say variable string, a variable list equals children ID. Actually, let's not do it. A table might be a little bit more complicated. So let's do the quick and dirty on list development. So let's call this list. So variable string list equals collect the children. And then we have variable string is vString. And then we say vString equals UL. So this is the opening and closing tags of a list. And then we say v list down. I'm gonna purposely make a mistake, by the way, while I'm at it, and I'll show you this how to fix it in a second. So vlist dot each make v string equal to the okay. So now let's say we want to go here and we want to view our children as a list. So let's go ahead and select vlist now. And when I do this, nothing's going to work. And I'll tell you why. See, I get blank. Well, why did I get blank? Well, if you look at the export code, you see I got nothing. So now we go back to our list and we see what I did wrong. Well, one, the first thing I did wrong is I neglected to put in the value into the template. So value equals vString. Right, so now if I go back, I'm going to still get nothing, but if I look at the export template, I'm getting nothing still. So now what we want to do is we go down to list again, and we say vString equals string. And now what we want to do is plus, 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 plus.
All right. So
And
it's going to loop everything and then spit it all out in one shot, essentially.
yeah, and now we want and we want the name of X, right? So now what I'm telling is take the action variable list equals vlist collect children ID. Create a variable called vString. vString equals the opening tag of the list vlist.each X. Here was the error. String equals this. So now create the individual bullets of the children, and then close the list, and then string that to the element.
So one sec, you'd remove the plus sign from the close li as well.
Oh
right?
yeah, there you go. Okay, and so now if we go here, what the hell?
No, you added the plus back in both. I thought maybe you were going to take out the plus from both.
No, I want the plus there because I need to be iterative. I know what I did wrong. B action 3. Let me just make sure my structure is right.
Also, I'm a little puzzled. You've asked for the IDs, but you're going to print the names.
Yeah, because I don't want I want the ID. I want the name of that note to be the name in the list. So I got oh here. I don't have a quote here. That's why it's failing. Okay. So now I have a list. right? And again, the reason why we need the cascading is because in this template, I'm only cascading the initial children. And so if you saw in my previous note with the longer lists, it can get more complex, but the basic structure is the same.
The same, right? I'm
So
beginning to see.
now, so Tinderbox doesn't have an inbuilt bulleted list view, but I've just created one for myself.
True, true.
And
Excellent.
you can do similar things or like SWOT analysis and tables or really any output you want.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to learn for export. The whole chapter awaits. Fascinating.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So
Excellent. All right.
hopefully this was useful for everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Fred.
superb.
We
Superb.
went through
I
all
think 3 people have already said that they're going to watch the video to see how this exciting chapter ends. So yeah.
that. All righty.
All right. Thanks so much.
See you guys later. Bye bye. Go
Have a
Niners.
great week.
Bye.